Hey Virgo, how's it going? I got some oracle messages for you here today. There's some chaotic fire and diffusive water energy that needs to be contained and guided properly. That's sort of the main feeling. And this can be like a lot of kind of untamed energy that comes up. Maybe if it's a feeling, if you can feel this energy, it's probably like in your sacral area, your lower abdomen, your sacral chakra area. The color orange might be important. But during my meditation, I got this feeling that transmutation of this energy is needed. And it could be brought into the throat chakra. So one of the things that you can do to deal with whatever it is you're going through is to, if you have like an overexcitation or any kind of excitation in that sacral chakra area, it can usually come in the form of like a giddiness, a positive type of anticipation, or sexual energy, or something like that. And it can be brought up through visualization, just imagining it going into your solar plexus and turning into a golden, almost white color. And this is where that more chaotic energy can be put under your will. Your willpower can now guide it when it enters your solar plexus. And then you can move it up again, just visualizing like an energy stream, maybe through your spine or just in your body, into your heart, where it can turn into a more green light color. And this is where you can stabilize how it feels so that it's not too far in any direction. It becomes more serene feeling, more tranquil feeling. And then from there, move it up, turn it into a sort of light blue color, and bring it into your throat center. Because something creative and productive can be done with it. And so when we want to do something like material that is creative and productive, it generally comes from a throat chakra space. Writing comes from the throat chakra, speaking, sculpture and painting, music production, analytical work, logical work. So much of what we do with our hands, when our thoughts and our will combine to just do something with our hands, it is a lot of it is regulated by the throat chakra. So if we can transmute our chaotic energy that we might be feeling, sort of fiery, watery, emotional giddiness, or some heat of some kind, and sometimes we're tempted when we have that energy in our lower chakras, we want to do like a more intense spiritual discipline. We want to take advantage of that, they call it the coiled up snake, down in the lower chakras, and send it into like our third eye or our crown chakra in a sort of Kundalini or Kriya Yoga type meditation, where we bring, the spinal fire up through our whole chakra system and expand our consciousness in a meditative state or a trance state or something like that. And, normally that sort of thing is fine to do. Often it's very important to do that, to take advantage of that spinal fire and enliven the entire chakra circuitry with it. But sometimes it's not appropriate if we've done it a lot already, or if we have a lot of that energy already up there. It's more appropriate to sort of descend the energy a little bit, in this case into the throat, and do something in the material world with it. Instead of trying to do some grand consciousness transformation or consciousness expansion exercises at this time, it might be better to do something small and detail-oriented, or a bunch of small things. Because this type of energy can be used for the one great thing, the so-called great work of consciousness expansion in the upper chakras, or it can be used to do a bunch of small things, because small things accumulate and become great. Because there's something in the details here. There's something in the material, physical world that requires your detail-oriented attention, and this excess energy is perfect for it. It's perfect to be channeled properly to make sure that you don't overlook the obvious, make sure that you're taking things step by step and procedurally, and you can really make a lot of progress and make a huge impact by doing tiny things, small things, making little accomplishments as you can, and understand that there's, like, in this case, there's no small job, there's no unimportant task. They're all very important, and every little accomplishment goes a really long way, because success or failure can hinge on really minor details at this time. If you miss something, the whole thing can go out of whack. It's like assembling a firearm and forgetting the firing pin. It's like this tiny piece of metal, and you can have all the other things in the machine working well, and then you squeeze the trigger and nothing happens because this tiny little thing, you forgot this tiny little, like 2 millimeter long, 1/4 millimeter in diameter pin. And well, I don't think it's 1/4 millimeter, I think it's 1 millimeter, and that'd be insanely tiny. But still, the idea is that it's really the devil's in the details here. Well, not the devil, the delight is in the details, is actually the phrase I heard. The delight is in the details. This is like a delightful time of little creative acts, and also like passing by the great thing that we might be thinking we should accomplish. Sometimes we get wrapped up in thinking we have to do great things. We have to be productive all the time, and we have to have pie in the sky dreams, and we have to work really hard, and we have to have huge goals, and we have to meet those huge goals, and we put self-value and valuation of situations based on how important they are in like a grand scheme. And when we do that, we rob ourselves of the little accomplishments, the little joys we can have in everyday life, of just working on a little thing and getting it done, and having a bunch of little things that we are proud of that make like a bigger picture when you put them all together, and the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. What seem like just little isolated accomplishments that, when taken in isolation, might not seem that important or worthwhile, but then when you do a bunch of them, start looking at it, and you start accounting for all these little accomplishments and all these little details, you start to see, like, this is actually becoming a great accomplishment, and you're able to do it step by step instead of trying to take a giant leap. And like, trying to ascend right now is not appropriate. You know, descending is oftentimes appropriate. Like, a bird can't fly forever. You know, a bird that's in flight has to descend every now and again. It's appropriate and correct. So look at what might be excessive right now and rein it in. It's generally speaking, it's better to be insufficient than to be excessive. In most cases. Obviously, if you're like putting out a house fire, excessive amounts of water is going to be better than insufficient amounts of water. But this isn't that type of situation. This is a type of situation that's like, under-eating is better than overeating, or being excessively humble is likely better than being excessively arrogant, something like that. So whatever's excessive, rein it in, as long as it's in your domain, under your control. Obviously, there are excessive things all around us all the time that we have no control over. And so, like, you know, take the Stoic example at this time that if it's out of your control, don't sweat it. But whatever's like in your control that it seems to be excessive, pull it into maybe insufficiency. Because this is kind of like a time of transition, at least when we have to transmute energy, when there's an abundance of chaotic or diffusive energy that we need to rein in. That's generally a moment of transition. That's a moment where we need to like take a break for a little bit, meditate, transmute the energy, do visualization practices, whatever you got to do. It's like a time of rest. Even if it's 10 minutes, you know, it's still a 10-minute transition from one state to another state. And during times of transition, insufficiency is generally the safer bet than excess. So I also got this idea of allowing, so while paying attention and taking care of the details, not belaboring the purity of these details. So as long as you're not overlooking the obvious, you're taking everything step by step, nice and slow, you're accounting for all of the details. You might not like the quality of some of the details, but as long as they're serviceable and they're not these big egregious errors or gaps or problems, but they're just not perfect or not absolutely pure, let it go and move on. As long as the important things are accounted for and you've paid attention to the detail and it is there and it's, you know, it's a cog in the machine, it's oiled, it's working, then move on to the next thing. And don't worry about its purity. Like, I got this anachronistic feeling. Sometimes when we're writing something, we want to explain a concept. This is just an example. We want to explain, let's say, a philosophical or spiritual concept. And we want the explanation to be timeless, so that anybody in any culture at any time period can read and understand it. So sometimes we can't really use too many analogies, especially if the analogy has to do with something contemporary and specific to a particular time and place. Like if you say, for example, this example of excess and insufficiency, I could use an example like, it's better to go under the speed limit while driving than over the speed limit. Because if you go over the speed limit, you could get into an accident or you can get a ticket. If you're under the speed limit, the only thing you're going to lose is your time. So that whole analogy I just used is very anachronistic. If someone is in the past, before cars were invented, they won't understand it. Or in the future, maybe we won't be using cars, there won't be such things as speed limits. It won't mean much to them if they don't know what a car or a speed limit is. And so we will want to sit back and be like, oh, I can't use that analogy. It's anachronistic. It's not timeless. It puts a date on this. It puts a time and place on this. And it sort of kills the purity of the project. And, oh, God, I have to think of a different thing. Let it go. Let the anachronism be there. What you think is an imperfection right now might actually work out in the long run. It might actually be an interesting part of it. It might not be an anachronism. Again, that's just an example. But this sort of imperfection, this sort of like, oh, there might be another way to conquer this detail, to portray this detail, to use this piece of the thing here. And if you have to like belabor it and really, you're gonna start thinking about all the other details and you're gonna end up in a purity spiral. So winding up in a purity spiral could be destructive. It could make you lose your overall vision. The small accomplishments will, well, you'll kind of undo the small accomplishments because you'll want to like purify them. You'll start seeing impurities in all of the other things you've been accomplishing and all the other details that you've been accounting for. And purity spirals will always get in the way of having our little accomplishments accumulate into a great big accomplishment. Because again, if we're too fixated on the great accomplishment, we start fixating on the purity of the details. This would kind of be disastrous. You want to avoid purity spirals. You want to avoid freaking out about how perfect everything is. So you have to take account of everything, but don't worry about how perfect it is. Make sure it's like at a good enough stage. And that good enough, in retrospect, in the future, when you have a bunch of small accomplishments, you might look back at those imperfections and realize that they actually add a lot of character, a lot of class, a lot of interest, there might be something very special about those imperfections that actually kind of do make them perfect in their imperfect way. So, you know, if you gotta sleep on it, sleep on it. Just don't overlook the obvious. And this really does take a consciousness that has to like contain some fiery energy. That this fire energy has this flaring, almost out of control feeling, and a temptation feeling, a more human kind of fire. Like, so there's some temptation and a little bit of destructive out of controlness. And coupled with that, like at the same time, is this watery feeling. It's fun, it's delightful, it's a good kind of water. It's like an interpersonal, emotional connection stuff that could maybe be a little too diffuse, a little too directionless, getting lost in just being happy and social, which is great. You should continue to be happy and social, but just don't let the energy be diffused in the social sphere. So we have this chaotic, tempting, fiery energy, which I don't really want to interpret specifically because I think it might be different, mixed with a giddy, fun, emotional, like good kind of emotional, interpersonal, watery energy that when left alone is going to just peter out and become useless energy. It's going to dissipate and diffuse, and it might burn you a little bit, and it's just going to become non-creative, non-productive, just like, just gone, just diffused out, fizzles out. But if you put sort of the imperium of your consciousness over it and command it, contain these fiery and watery energies, bring some law and order to it, contain it, guide it, give it a function and a form, give it a direction, and using like your pure awareness to just make sure it doesn't become wasted energy. So think about how you interact with these energies, how aware you are of them, and how these energies can be transmuted, guided, funneled, put on a track, put in a container, bottle the lightning, so to speak. There's a lot of that. That's kind of where this energy, this fuel comes from. And when it's contained, you can, again, like if you transmute this energy into your throat chakra, so to speak, or literally, you can do a lot of little accomplishments. You'll have like this abundance of energy that is just so useful, and you'll be able to just expend it little by little, making small accomplishments and focusing on little details. So those energies, those two energies, those fiery and watery things, could be anything, depending on your situation. But figure out how to just be super aware of them, but like a calm solar awareness, not like micromanaging, nitpicky awareness, but like just aware, quietly observing and guiding, and putting all of that on a, like I was saying, a nice slow contained path, like Knight of Pentacles energy, that slow plodding horse, the strong knight, the calm solar awareness, where you expend the energy, you have a lot of energy. The Knight of Pentacles, his horse is very big and strong and muscular, and it's very dense with energy and fuel. It's a very fueled up horse. But it expends its energy very, very slowly and very, very calculatedly. It conserves its energy and uses all of it very smartly, very appropriately. It looks where it's walking, makes sure it doesn't step on any pebbles or rocks in the wrong way, that it doesn't hurt itself, that its posture is really good. The Knight of Pentacles' posture is really good. He's also really focusing on all of his muscular energy and his nervous energy so that he can stand up and sit up straight in the most stable position that conserves his energy as he's on this long ride. And they make slow but very, very powerful progress, step by step, understanding exactly how to release their energy and when in small bursts, but they have so much of it. So this is like having a full gas tank but driving under the speed limit, and being really just conserving that energy but using it really, really productively and creatively. So yeah, bring your air and earth energy to bear here. So your air, your mental and intellectual energy, and your earth energy, your materiality and stability, bring those two things to bear on to the fire and watery energy. So allow the air and earth energy in your life to have a little bit of supremacy right now, to control the fire and the water, to contain it, to give it something to do. Don't let it just diffuse out into the air, into the earth. Don't let it like just become useless. You know, make a container, use the container. So yeah, air and earth are to be used to contain and guide the fire and the water right now. And you can accomplish a lot. Now, if you're dealing with interpersonal stuff and there are other people involved in the creative, productive, goal-oriented aspect of all of this stuff, if you're not working alone or doing this alone, listen to what is not being said by the other people in your group at this time. There might be some of that fiery energy might be a little bit trying to kind of hijack what's going on here for their own purposes, but you're easily in a position to prevent that from happening and just get them back in line. It's not like a huge deal. This isn't gonna like break your relationship or destroy the project or anything, but there's someone who's like trying to push it in their direction for their purposes, and you're completely within your rights and authority to like say like, no, that's not what we're doing, or like make sure you're paying attention to this too, because there's something that's not being said. Listen for that and see if you can notice that, because you know, now's the time to like take notes, write lists, have a spreadsheet, a flow chart, you know, be detail oriented. And if something is on your list and in your flow chart of expectations and this person is not addressing those things, bring it up. Be like, well, there are these, you know, in between A and C, there's a B here. Why aren't you talking about B? You know there's a B. We discussed B, but you're not talking about B. You know, just point it out gently. But don't overstep your boundaries. So there's that. It's like excessiveness, you know, is not good right now. It's bring it back. Don't overstep the boundaries, but you have the authority to completely rein in this situation and guide it, give it its direction and function. Just beware for someone or something, some energy that might be trying to manipulate the situation or derail it in some way. Could even be a part of your own thinking process, which is why I say have a lot of awareness, center yourself with awareness, sleep on it if you have to, take your time, don't overlook the obvious. And as long as you're looking out for what's not being said and you're not missing any details, there's no, you know, there's, again, the idea of delight. This is a delightful time. This is a functional time. This is a creative, productive time. This is a go with the flow while not being too in the flow. It's like equal parts flow and detail oriented. It's like a feel-good productivity time. Creative, get things done, and don't sweat the huge, bigger picture. Focus on the details and let the bigger picture come together the way it's going to come together. All right, Virgo, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I always appreciate it when you stop by. I'll see you next time. Take it easy.